Hey Gearheads, and welcome to Garage Talk. I'm Corey, and that is the 2023 Audi SQ5 Sportback. And in a world that has just gone completely crazy with SUV coupes, especially performance versions, is this the best one that money can buy? Or are there some options on the market that I would prefer over this one? Stay tuned. All right, Gearheads, first things first, I do want to thank Audi for delivering this to us to test for a full week here on the channel. We have definitely put it through its paces as a family vehicle, more on that to come. But I do want to talk about what is motivating this thing while I've got the hood popped. First and foremost, just how massive this hood is. It wraps around the sides, and you can see the way these hinges work, just how far away from the cowl it comes when you open it. Very interesting work there. But when you do open this massive hood, you can see the 3-liter turbocharged V6 underneath the hood, making 349 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. It puts power down through an 8-speed Tiptronic automatic transmission that does have flappy paddles on the back of the steering wheel, and puts it down to all 4 wheels thanks to Audi's quattro all-wheel drive system. I'll talk more about how this thing drives when we get behind the wheel, but Audi claims a 4.7 second 0 to 60 time and a 155 mile per hour top speed. So definitely some good performance numbers here in a performance coupe SUV thing. Yeah, we'll get more into that as well. But we'll go ahead and close the hood and come back and take a look at the styling of the SQ5. Now, I will say this wasn't exactly love at first sight with me. The whole SUV coupe segment seems to be an interesting one because you either do it really right, and I'm talking about that Genesis GV80 coupe I saw at the New York International Auto Show, or you do it kind of wrong, and this one kind of leans more on that wrong side. You've got the you've got Mercedes-Benz with their AMG GLE coupe SUV and GLC coupe SUV. And, you know, we've taken a look at those on the channel, and then BMW just, we won't get into BMW. This splits the hairs between Mercedes, which is kind of on the frumpy side, and BMW, which, in my opinion, just hasn't quite gotten the SUV coupe look right just yet. But we'll talk about this Audi while we've got it here in front of us. What I do like about it is the front end styling. This has the black optics package. So on this silver paint job, everything contrasts very nicely with all the black up front. We don't have any silver around the grille or any brushed metal around the grille. It's really good contrast with this silver paint. And then you can see we've got LED headlights, LED fog lights, LED running lights, LED turn signals that are sequential. I absolutely love sequential headlights, and I think Audi does some of the best sequential headlights and turn signals in the business, so big props to them there. And as we come in close here to the grille, you'll see not all of this grille is actually open and functional, which is something that I critique mostly Toyota for. Toyota has been really bad about large fake grills. Look at the Avalon and the Crown that replaced it, both of which have very large, very fake grills up front. But getting air to the intercooler back behind it is done all up here, and helping keep that 3-liter turbocharged V6 cool is still accomplished through the top part of this grille. And coming around to the side, part of the black optics package are these 21-inch 5-spoke twin spoke wheels finished in this titanium color. They are wrapped, I'm going to come in close here, in Pirelli P0 rubber. These are 255/40 R21-inch Pirelli P0 summer tires wrapped around these 21-inch wheels. Again, as part of our black optics package with these wheels, we do get 6-piston front brake calipers, gripping down on 13.8-inch disc brakes up front. We get a single piston brake caliper back there in the back. And as we take a look at the profile of this, you can see a lot of design elements from many other Audi products. Audi is very much a nesting doll style automaker in that most of their vehicles look like bigger versions of their smaller vehicles. In fact, while we were in Dallas this past weekend with this car, a lot of Q3s looked a lot like this Q5. So this Q5 plays in that compact crossover segment and the compact coupe crossover segment. So again, referencing the Mercedes competition, that would be the GLC coupe, and I believe the BMW X4, if that's right. But yeah, interesting looks. I do like that body line that goes down the side, even here in the silver. Two good things I will say about silver paint jobs. We've gotten a lot of silver vehicles here on the channel lately, but they show off the curves and the body lines. That's why designers like to show off their vehicles in silver so much. It also really hides the dirt. We've driven this one to Dallas and back, and it's been through rain and all kinds of torrential downpours, and it's done very nicely for us. So you can see it looks kind of like a blown up version of maybe an S4 sedan, kind of like if my son were done with a package of applesauce and then just blew it up to fool us. That's kind of what this looks like. It just looks like a puffed up A4 or S4 sedan, just a little bit taller. That greenhouse looks a little bit taller than a sedan. Otherwise, it very much mimics a sedan. And that's what I really don't get about this vehicle. I'm not quite sure who it's for, because it's not quite an SUV and it's not quite a sedan. It rides up high enough, or not quite an SUV. It rides up high enough where you kind of lose a lot of the sedan and sport coupe dynamics of it. But this one does have an S-adaptive suspension. Again, we'll get into that while we're driving and while we're touring the inside. But you give up a lot in driving dynamics with the higher center of gravity. And then with the Sportback roofline, you give up a lot of the practicality of an SUV. So these SUV coupes are really interesting for me in that they're really not the best of any worlds. They're the worst of both worlds. You get terrible coupe-like storage and terrible SUV-like ride height. But everybody wants an SUV, and everybody apparently wants a coupe with 4 doors. So here we go. Moving around to the back, there are some things I really love back here and some things I absolutely hate. We'll get into what I love, and much like up front are the sequential turn signals. So these are OLED turn signals back here in the back, OLED rear taillights. So when they're on, they're on. When they're off, they are off. And yes, we get this cool sequential turn signal pattern here. Interesting point to make. US regulations mandate that brake lights not be on movable panels of vehicles. And if you look at the body lines of this, they're actually completely contained within the hatch. If you look on most vehicles, the hatch splits the taillight module in half, with all the braking functions actually being on the fixed in place portion. But Audi has come up with a workaround on that, because when you do open the hatch, the lower taillights and the bumper take over, and you can see those are not LED at all. Those are incandescent turn signals. Really kind of boring down here on the bottom. And you can see that innermost light is your brake light now and your running light. And you can see, interestingly enough, big blank spot here from that tail light now that the hatch is open. Very interesting look. I know the Chevy Bolt, may it rest in peace, and a few Lincoln SUVs also borrow this kind of design philosophy with the same trickery with the switching of the lights back there in the back. But while we have the hatch open, I can show you a few cool tricks back here. So we have a 40-20-40 split bench rear seat. That 20% in the center does go with the driver's side seat, but you can flip and fold these from the cargo section back here. On both sides, there is a lever to fold those forward. So if you are back here loading a bunch of luggage, you need more room, you can absolutely fold those forward. I will say that with the rear seats up, you get a really good, 18 cubic feet of storage space behind these rear seats, and when you fold them down, you get a rather decent 52.3 cubic feet. So even though this does have a sloping coupe-like roofline, you do give up a little bit over the non-Sportback version, but you still get a decent amount of space back here behind the third row. You can see this is our largest suitcase in our set, and we still have some space here behind it. I'm going to take it out though and show you what lies underneath, and move my backpack out of the way here, because we do have a false load floor here that shows a temporary spare tire and our subwoofer right here. So taking a play out of Mazda's book, or maybe Mazda took a play out of Audi's, I'm not quite sure, but stuffing a subwoofer within the spare tire back in the back. But that has got to be the thinnest sidewall I have ever seen on a spare tire. Definitely not going to be going long distances on that one. Other cool features are we've got these little nets on the side for storing some additional items, and we also have this elastic strap here on the driver's side for some other items. And one last item, the adaptable suspension on this also allows you to adjust the ride height of the vehicle from the back. So if you need a little easier lift in height, you can push and hold this button and the vehicle will actually drop down to its lowest setting from back here in the back, allowing for a much easier load in over that rear bumper. So I really like that a whole lot. That is a very nice feature. And for whatever reason, maybe you're taller and you just want it up a little bit higher, you can push and hold the button here and we can raise it up so that we have a higher load in height, or maybe it just works a little bit better for you if you're a taller person, but you've got that right there. That also plays into how wide this, or how tall this hatch opens. So I currently have the vehicle in its tallest position. I'm at 5'10", so I've got right at 6 feet, thereabouts, just over 6 feet of height here when the vehicle is in its tallest setting. And then we do have a hatch mounted button here to close, and you can see when we close it back, the full LED or OLED taillights do take over duty and the lower ones quit functioning whatsoever. We do get an SQ5 badge here on the back to go with one of my biggest nitpicks of this entire vehicle: fake quad exhaust. So yes, this does have quad exhaust from the rear, or at least you're meant to think that it does, but coming up close you can see these aren't real. No air, no exhaust is coming out from here. We actually climb up underneath it, and you can see we have a single exhaust pipe right out here, and then coming to the other side, a single exhaust pipe down there. So really just a dual exhaust with turn downs and quad exhaust fake tips back here on the back. Not exactly my favorite situation. I like that they will always stay clean and shiny and they won't get buildup on them. But yeah, just give me real exhaust tips and trust me to keep them clean, right? All right, before we get inside this one, I did want to show you the Audi key. Very typical Audi key, very small, compact, very easy to slip in your pocket or your purse. And being a proximity key, that's exactly where it's going to spend most of its time. But you do get lock and unlock buttons here on the key fob, as well as a hatch release button and a panic button. You can deploy an actual physical key from the bottom here, but keep it in your pocket. Oh yeah, it is also S-branded, but you can keep it in your pocket and come up to any of the 4 doors in this one, or the hatch, and you can lock it, and it will give you a little chirp, and the mirrors will fold in. Or you can unlock it simply by putting your hand on the back of the door and pulling it open on all 4 of the doors. You will notice these door handles actually pivot upwards instead of forwards. Very unique thing that we've noticed in other Audi products. Opening the door, we are welcomed to a very nice cockpit. Audi does interiors very well, and I especially like this Magma red Nappa leather on this one. But before we get inside, I do want to show you some of the details on the door. So we do have carbon fiber trim on our SQ5. There we go, I'll get it right there. We have lock unlock up here, 2-person memory seat for the driver, express on all 4 windows, child lockout on the windows right there, and all your mirror controls right here. They are power folding and heated. And then down here we have our hatch release with a little bit of extra storage in the door. But let's hop into this Magma red Nappa leather interior, close the door, get out of all the noise that we're experiencing outside with the lawn equipment going on. Put our foot on the brake and push the engine start button, which is actually mounted down here on the center console. The whole thing roars to life, and you can hear that 3-liter turbocharged V6 roar to life. Again, I really like the exhaust note on this one. It sounds really good. I've enjoyed driving this one around town, and we'll get again into more of that when we're actually driving this one around. But I do want to take you across the front of this. So we already talked about the door, but just over my left knee, we have all our light controls here with a dial, and our fog light controls here that automatically turn on the headlights when you do. Brightness control for the gauge cluster, the 12.3 inch and a digital cockpit, and then a dial here to adjust the height of the head-up display. So I really like that. It's quick and easy to access right there, and then you can see everything on there. You get driver assistance, posted speed, cruise control set speed, and your current speed, as well as, like I said, some driver assistance stuff. Coming down here, we have multiple different configurations here on the digital cockpit. So we've got a couple different views. This is how it was delivered to us, kind of more in a standard view. You can see we've got a digital tach over here, prominent long-term memory there in the front with our speedometer over to the right. But I can hit view again, and I get a more sporty dynamic view with a tach and speed right there in the middle. I will go ahead and call out in our time with this, we've put just over 300 miles on it, averaging 22.3 mpg in just over 9 hours of driving. And we haven't had a lot of idle time in this one yet because I'm just now filming my first review. And then we get our date and time over there. We also get our odometer information down here with a resettable or reconfigurable, resettable? I don't know, what's the word? Additional odometer right there, trip odometer right there. So not only do you get the long-term and short-term memory right here on the side, which you can control from the steering wheel here, but you get that additional trip computer down there. You can also scroll through various different things here on the side in this version, from your fuel level to consumption, but I really like leaving it on that long-term memory. And then my arrows over here control what screen is over here, so you can see fuel, audio, phone, and navigation. So we get multiple different controls right here. And when I hit the view button while I'm on navigation, I do get a full screen navigation. So if I use the built-in navigation in this Audi, which uses Google Maps, I would have everything displayed right there in front of me. I can also hit view again and put it over there on the side. So I really like this setup most of all, and like I said, I really keep it on long-term memory more often than not. So that's all the controls over here. We do have a heated steering wheel button right here, and this is your audio controls on this side. Your cruise control is down here. So while other Audis that we've tested have changed the incremental speed by 2.5 miles per hour, this one actually does it by 1s, but it is a fully adaptive system with stop and go. I've come to like this system. You can go by 5s by pushing it up all the way, and you can see there on the dash it's changing by 5s when I do it the full way, but if I do little clicks I can do it by 1s. I really have come to like it. I would prefer maybe having buttons up here like on most other automakers, but it keeps the simplistic design of the steering wheel down. It is leather wrapped. We do have perforations here on the side. We do get a nice S badge here on the bottom, and then looking back behind we do have some metal pedals down there. Get a 10.1 inch color infotainment screen, and this is another one of my big complaints with this vehicle. Other Audi products I have not had this problem with, but for some reason the Apple CarPlay, wireless or wired in this, just does not want to play well. So my phone should be connected. Let's see. Go to, nope, it's not connected. But when I go here, yep, there's my phone. It'll say it's establishing connection. And oh, it actually worked this time. So driving over here to film, driving around in Dallas, I would actually have to power the vehicle off and back on. It has really been a hit or miss system with us in this. When it works, I like it very much. This 10.1-inch screen is very clear and crisp and does a great job of displaying everything that I want. And much like other MMI systems from Audi, very snappy to respond. We'll get more into that here in just a second when we talk about the backup camera and such. Climate controls are very nice. Again, just like every Audi product that we've been in, we actually have a 3-zone climate control in this. So even that S5 Cabriolet had a rear zone climate control. I really like that this one does. And you can see these are touch sensitive buttons here. So even though they do give you a nice satisfying click when you push on them, they know when you're touching on them. Just by laying your finger on them, you can adjust everything, including that rear climate control or the rear heated seats from right here up front, which is very interesting. I'm not sure why the front passengers would need control over the rear heated seats, but it is there. Otherwise, up here you get dual knobs for the front 2 seats, and then you get a nice row of driver assistance with a little bit of a blank button here. I'm not quite sure what that's for. This button right here turns off the 10.1-inch screen up front. Downhill descent control, which basically downhill cruise control. We get a blank. Your parking sensors, button to park itself. That's been a hit or miss feature with us. It did help us parallel park while we were in Dallas. Traction control off, engine start stop off, and drive select. So we're going to go up here. We have 6 different drive modes. I'm going to go into the first one and work my way down. Off-road, you can see that actually raises the suspension in this. I'm actually lifting up off the ground. So much like the buttons back there in the back hatch that control the height of the vehicle, I can control the height of the vehicle from the drive select button. I can also get into that by going to vehicle, Audi drive select, and now it's actually going to stay in the screen. And you can see how it is adjusting right there. Doesn't go all the way to the top position. I'm sure that would come into play a little bit more while I'm actually off-roading, but it gives you yet another benefit of going with the Q5 or the SQ5 over maybe an S5 Coupe or an S4 sedan, because yes, people like taking their SUVs off-road, so maybe that's why you want an SUV coupe, is for a little bit of off-road action. You can also control the height of the suspension right here from that. So now I'm going into that top right height position right there. Then we've got Allroad, which is a little more of a tame off-road setting. It doesn't take me into that top ride height. It is a little bit more composed and compliant. I will say, driving around in that off-road setting with it riding up as high as it is, definitely feels like it's on its tiptoes. Comfort will drop me down just a little bit. You can see where it's highlighting. I'm going to be in the middle position here as we're going down. Changes things from your throttle response and again your S damping on the sport suspension. Auto learns your driving behavior. Dynamic is definitely the sportier version of everything, and you can hear the vehicle even sounds a little bit different when I put it in dynamic. And then individual allows you to customize it. So that gives you everything from your drive mode, your suspension, your steering, and your engine sound, which I'm not entirely convinced that that's not piped in, but again, we'll talk more about that while we're driving. But I really like and have enjoyed taking this around in dynamic mode for the majority of the time that I've driven this. Again, we'll get more into that while we are driving. Down here, we get a little bit of storage, not too deep, but it is lit here, so it is rubber covered. If you want to put some change or some metal items down here, we get a USB-A port for interfacing with the Apple CarPlay. Again, it is wireless, but you do get an option of plugging in through USB-A. Get a 12-volt cigarette-style lighter output right there. And then a deep storage, or not so deep, but interesting storage cubby right here. Not quite sure what you would want to put here. We did discover in our road trip maybe some mixed nuts. You can pour those down for a road trip snack. There's that right there. Get additional audio controls right here. I like that we don't have the jog wheel that we've had on some other Audi products. We actually get a knob with a toggle to go forward and back. I really like that better than some other options that we've had. And then this right here, it's not long enough for my wife's iPhone 13, definitely not long enough for my iPhone 14 Pro Max. I'm not quite sure what you're supposed to put there. It's not really big enough for pins, not really big enough for much of anything. So maybe just throw some garbage or trash down there. Where you will want to keep your phone is here on this Qi wireless charging pad that actually does a really good job. Of all the flat wireless charging pads I've come across in the business, this is the best, and it actually does slide out of the way, revealing your cup holders here, which have a very unique feature that we have not tested in anything yet to date. We get a climate controlled passenger side cup holder, so we can turn it on and cool, or we could turn it on to heat and keep your drink warm in here. You can see the button, or the light right here will tell you if it's cooling or not. So I really like that a whole lot. Very interesting that it's only the passenger and not both. Audi does have a little key symbol here, so I guess they want you to keep your key here in that one. Not quite sure there. We get our controls here, our electronic controls for our 8-speed Tiptronic transmission. So there's a little button here on the side. You pull it back to put it in drive, push it forward to put it in reverse, which activate the 360 cameras. You can see we get a bird's eye that is really clear and a rear with trajectory. I like that a lot. But you can hit this button right here and see all your different options. So I can look up in front of me with a wide angle or with a more normal angle with my trajectory there. I can see my big bird's eye 360 with my radar readouts right there. I can see back behind me just normal or a wide. I can see my front wheels or my back wheels. So a lot of different options of what I can see here in the Audi. And the quickest and easiest way to get to that is by putting it in reverse. Park is right here. And if you want to put it back in drive and push over, then you can either push up or down here on that, or on the flappy paddles on the back of the steering wheel here. But I'm actually going to put it back over and put it in park, because now we're going to check out that back seat and see what it's like sitting behind myself at 5'10". All right, moving to the back seat behind myself, opening up the doors, you can see that on the back doors we still get some carbon fiber, some Alcantara or some suede material back here. No manual sunshades on our particular tester. It's part of a $600 warm weather package that also includes ventilated front seats. But sadly, you can't get the Magma red Nappa leather seats if you get that warm weather package. So I don't know, it's a toss-up. Do you want red seats or cooled seats? Getting into the back and sitting behind myself, you can see I've got a fair amount of room back here. We do have a mat pocket or a net back here on both, and a plastic seat back, which again has come in handy with Tucker riding on the passenger side over here. If you want to see us install his child safety seat back here in the back, definitely subscribe to the channel and you'll see our family review when it drops later this week. But I didn't talk about it up front. The quilted leather seats, very nice, very beautiful to look at. I really love the Magma red, so very nice touch. And we'll call out the removable plastic covers here. On the back of the center console, we do have our air vents, so no ceiling mounted vents back here, but we can change the temperature from back here. Again, it is a tri-zone unit, and we have those heated outboard seats. We get 2 USB-A ports down here for charging only, and a 12-volt cigarette style outlet right there. I didn't mention while I was up front, so I'll go ahead and show you. The center console does open up, and I have my wireless phone, or my phone and the wireless charger right there, but you can slide that forward and get to a little bit of extra storage there. There is a USB-C port back in here, and just enough room for a little bit of items that you might need. It does ratchet into place, so you can put it at multiple different levels, but it is a very small center console that doesn't hide a whole lot. And then coming back here to the center tunnel, because of the quattro all-wheel drive, we do get a very large center tunnel here. So while there is seating for 5 here, you're definitely going to be straddling that as well. We do have a large panoramic sunroof up top, which, as I come around back to me, does not cut into my headroom too much, but it would definitely be more spacious back here for my head if we did not have the roller shade going right into the roof right here above me. but I'm really good right here. There is a lever on the side of the seat to recline it a little bit. I really can't say that that is a very noticeable recline, but it gives me a nice sitting position. I'm very comfortable back here. I'm not touching the seat in front of me. I'm comfortable. My knees aren't in my chin. I could ride back here, no problem. It is still a compact crossover, so if you want a bigger one, look at the Q8 or the Q7. Those would definitely be more up your alley. And while I'm back here, I'll go ahead and show you the adjustable headrests for the front as well, so you can actually pop them out or pull them back closer to you. Here we do have a fold down center armrest with deployable cup holders. Very nice, very cute back here, but we get matching red cloth material here on the inside, and this being a 40-20-40 split does actually fold down. You can see we've got top tethers all the way across, and we already saw that cargo compartment back there in the back. So definitely some trade-offs in this one for Texas weather. We get the Magma red interior, but we don't get rear sunshades back here, and we don't get ventilated front seats. That's enough of the interior. Let's see how this thing drives. All right, setting off in the Audi SQ5. This really has been a fun vehicle. Yes, it was not love at first sight. I cannot claim this to be just my favorite vehicle, but I was very excited when I saw this one show up on our list for this reason right here. On the straight road and match it. So this thing will scoot, and Audi claims a 0 to 60 time of 4.7 seconds with a top speed of 155 miles an hour. And I would say that I would agree with it. It is plenty peppy, plenty spunky, and plenty fun to drive with a few exceptions. And most notably, it comes down to this 8-speed Tiptronic. You might have noticed when I put my foot down on the pedal just earlier, it took a second to get going. So this may be one of the few vehicles where I don't leave the vehicle to decide for itself exactly what I want it to do. It's where I put it in flappy paddle mode by slapping that over to the right and doing it myself. But we're going to turn here on this road. One more time. Just a little bit of lag before it gets going. So even here in dynamic mode, it seems like it's just holding back just a little bit before the Tiptronic really knows what to do. All right, let's see what putting it in manual mode does. Much quicker to respond, and yep, it's definitely fun. But I just wish it did better on its own rowing through the gears, but this thing definitely pulls, and it makes for a very fun, fast vehicle when you get past the hesitant nature of that Tiptronic. Other than that, when it does decide to shift you down a gear and set you off, you get going pretty quick. And with quattro all-wheel drive, you get going pretty quick without a lot of drama or wheel spin. So I really like the fact that all-wheel drive is really becoming more of the standard across the board. We're even seeing it in a Corolla, for crying out loud. So the performance de facto is now all-wheel drive with a rear drive bias over what might have been a favored rear-wheel drive only from the muscle car 60s. I'm okay with a rear drive biased all-wheel drive system. And this quattro system definitely proves to be a very good one. Like I said, we have driven this thing over 300 miles, and a lot of that was through Dallas traffic, and a lot of that was in rainy and inclement weather. So very confidence inspiring in this vehicle. So not only is it a performance tuned all-wheel drive setup, but it will actually help you in inclement weather as well, helping keep you safe and going in the direction that you want it to go. But now I am on my favorite curvy back road here in East Texas, and really get to enjoy some of the driving dynamics and behavior of this one. I am in the dynamic mode, which does firm up that suspension a little bit more than if I were in comfort or any of the others, but it makes for driving this one a whole lot of fun. Like I mentioned earlier, this does have a higher center of gravity because of its bigger greenhouse and taller overall height than perhaps an S4. Being that we are in an SUV crazy market nowadays, really is a good alternative to all of that. But I don't know, I'm just not completely sold on this SQ5, mostly because of the driving dynamics of this 8-speed Tiptronic and the fact that you really do kind of have to take control of it yourself. But when it comes to actual driving fun around curvy roads, there's a lot to like about everything else on this one. It's fun to take around corners, it's fun to drive quickly, and it is fun to explore new areas. And because you do have an off-road and an all-road suspension setting in this one, you really can explore a lot of different settings. Much like that Acura MDX Type S that we tested recently on the channel, being it's an SUV instead of a sports sedan or a sports coupe does give you a lot more practicality in everyday use. And then the sound of that turbo with the blow-off valve is just so much fun and has me pushing and lifting off the throttle quite a bit when driving this one around. It has been a very fun vehicle to explore curvy back roads of East Texas, if not for driving around in city traffic, which let's cut to that right now. So getting this thing in stop and go traffic where you're going to be coming to a complete stop is really where this vehicle kind of falls apart for me, and where I came to dislike it fairly early on in our test of it. Because of the engine start-stop in this, it really comes to a stop before the vehicle comes to a stop. The engine cuts off before the vehicle is done moving, which kind of judders to a stop and is not my favorite experience whatsoever, which has me turning the engine start-stop off more in this vehicle than I have done in any other test vehicle that we've had. It is not my favorite experience, and it is kind of confusing to me why, before my foot is firmly on the brake and the vehicle is completely at a stop, why the engine cuts off. And because of that whole situation, I find myself not being fully on the brake before the engine decides to cut back on, which really defeats the whole engine start-stop feature in its entirety. I'm very confused by that aspect of this vehicle. But pushing that button right there every time you turn the vehicle on does make for a more pleasant driving experience, especially here in dynamic drive mode. I will also say, while we're talking about start-stop traffic of this, the brakes on this, while they are good for sporty driving and for having a lot of fun carving back roads and carving corners and stuff like that, they do tend to bite a little bit harder than you would expect for a typical commuter, which makes commuting in this, along with that start-stop judderiness, not the best experience overall, which kind of has me confused as to exactly who this vehicle is for. Being the S variant means it's for the performance-minded, but being an SUV, you really take away some of the performance capabilities of a vehicle with its higher ride height and all of that. As an enthusiast, I would really go more for the S5 coupe or cabriolet that we have tested here on the channel before I would over a coupe-like SUV. And being a coupe-like SUV, that really takes away some of the practicality of this as a family vehicle, as does the S performance stuff of this. It really is an interesting mix of performance, looks, style, and I don't know, it just doesn't quite sync or hit home for me, making me wonder who this vehicle really is for. And with a price tag as tested of $76,000 and some change, really has me questioning who's going to be buying this vehicle, because once you get north of $70,000, really opens up a lot of different options in SUVs, both midsize, full-size, large SUVs, and very different driving dynamics and behaviors. So if you really want to lean into the off-road capabilities of this one, you could get into a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Or if you want to lean into the sportiness of this one, you can really go in a much cheaper direction with a brand that I've really come to like in Genesis. So there really are some interesting different variants that you can get for this same price, including that Acura MDX Type S that we tested a few weeks ago here on the channel. That's stickered at 72, had the adaptive suspension, but also had ventilated and massaging seats and a third row. So again, this SQ5 really has me confused as to how it is designed, priced, and packaged, and who it's for. But let's go back to some more performance off-road driving to finish this one out. But back here on curvy East Texas back roads, this is a lot of fun. I will note that a lot of the noise that you're hearing is from the highly textured pavement that I'm on and from Tucker's child seat rattling around in the back. This really is a very buttoned down vehicle that hasn't made any noises and feels very solid, very planted in all that it does. And that brings me to my final point, competition. Audi would probably claim the Mercedes GLC or GLE, probably that GLC coupe for its main rival, but there are some other vehicles that I think Audi really has to watch out for, and that is from the Korean automaker Genesis. The GV70, while not an SUV coupe by nature, really has this vehicle beat in the looks department, both inside and out. And with its 2.5 liter and 3 liter engine options, definitely rivals this thing when it comes to powertrain as well. We tested the less powerful 300 horsepower 2.5 liter 4-cylinder and absolutely loved it, making me wonder what that 375 horsepower 3 liter would be like. That does outpower this SQ5 and comes at a significant bargain to this SQ5. So with the Audi, you really are buying the name, the heritage, the well-known respect of the Audi brand, but with that Genesis, maybe you're getting a little bit of a benefit. So this really is a good car, but would I buy it over a Genesis GV70 with that 3 liter? I don't know. Huge thanks again to Audi for letting us test this one for a week. If you want to see more from us, including me install Tucker's child seat in the back, see what Holly thinks of this one, be sure and hit that subscribe, follow, ring the bell, all the buttons to let the algorithms know to show you more content from us. You can find us on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Everything is at GT Garage Talk, or you can read more about this vehicle and some stuff that didn't make it into this video by going to gtgaragetalk.com. But until next time, gearheads, bye.